is Keyed In with Max and Brent, unlocking the minds of the industry's top real estate professionals. And now, here are your hosts, Max Rabin and Brent Jackson.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Keyed In Podcast. I'm Max Rabin.
And I'm Brent Jackson.
Brent, I think it's safe to say that our guest today has way more media experience than we do.
Very much
I think we're
so.
outclassed by a long shot.
I'm not in the media. This is my media.
This is it. This is it. We're here. We have Mike Aubrey from Berkshire Hathaway here in Washington, D.C. I was going over all your stuff, Mike. You're on Fox Business quite a bit. You were on HGTV years ago. I want to
Today Show.
Yeah, I want to get into all that. Like how I want to know all about how that came about. But like we always like to start off with, first of all, hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks for having me, guys.
Good morning.
And just tell us a little bit about first, like how you got into real estate, how long you've been in real estate, and tell us your thing.
So, I mean, this is about 20 years that I've been in the business, and I went to Virginia Tech, and when I left school, I'll take you back to your Latin days if you had them. Virginia Tech says ut prosum, that I may serve, is what that means. And so when I finished school, I took two things. One, my desire to serve people, and two, my adrenaline junkiness. And I put those two things together, and I became a career firefighter. I'm a deep pool, man. A lot going on with me, right?
Yeah.
So I was a professional firefighter in Howard County, Maryland, for about 7 years. And
how'd you get from Blacksburg up to Howard County?
My mom and dad moved here while I was in college, and I'm such a mama's boy that I did not. I came here because they were here, and that's how I landed here, and I've stayed ever since. And then when I worked in the fire service, which was an amazing job, and I loved every minute of it, I had a line of duty injury, and they retired me and would not let me come back. And so if you know how the fire department schedule works, you know, you work 24-hour days, and you work 10 24-hour days, but that still leaves you a lot of days off. And so most people, own construction businesses or landscaping companies, and I don't like cutting grass, and I don't like building anything. And so what I did was I played a lot of golf, and I got my handicap down to about a 4.
That's good.
A lot of golf.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I mean, I really should get some sort of side hustle. Everybody else in the department has it. What am I going to do as my side hustle? How about if I do real estate? And of course, this was so long ago. It was before you could take class online, and you had to do PMP, and you had to go to some brokerage and somebody would teach you, and you had to actually sit through class. So before I got hurt, I sat through the class with the idea that I would get my real estate license, and then I would start doing it on the side. Everybody has these aspirations of being a part-time real estate agent. And so then I got hurt, and I went through 2 years of surgeries on my knee, and I woke up from the 4 surgery that I had, and the guy who did my knee was a guy named Les Matthews in Baltimore, and he did Terrell Owens' ankle. I don't know if you guys remember, Terrell came to Baltimore when he had an ankle issue, and that was Dr. Matthews that did him too. And I woke up, and he said, Mike, listen, this is as good a piece of orthopedic work as I've done in my career. You will play softball again. You're going to carry your kids. I'm never going to let you trust your life or somebody else's life on this knee again. You're done. And, and so I'm like sitting in recovery post anesthesia, and I'm crying like a little girl because it was the only thing I knew in my adult life. It's the only thing I'd ever done. And I was 100% all in on it. And so I had to get a job. And I was like, well, how about real estate? And so I, got into real estate, and I remember one of my favorite things is I did an open house, and I had 5 people come to that open house, and I sold all 5 people a house. And I was like, I can do this.
Which neighborhood was this?
It was in Montgomery County.
Okay.
In middle Montgomery County. And so there you go. That's how I got into real estate.
Seems so easy.
So 20 years ago, I'm trying to think. So that's right before the market took a dip.
Correct. So,
right.
I mean, it was a smoke show coming into it, and it was really good, and it was just getting better and better and better and better, albeit built upon, this unbelievably unstable house of cards, and we all know what sort of the other side of that was in '08 and what came out of that. And I might as well jump right into it because you're about to ask.
Sure.
So how do you span the gap between real estate and television, and how did I go, was that linear?
Yep.
I never so much as took a drama class. I never wanted to be on TV. I had no aspirations of doing that. And this is how I got on TV. I mean, talk about just simple, weird things. So Sabrina Soto, who did a show called Get It Sold on HGTV, she moved here from LA to do Get It Sold, which they were shooting in the DC area. And at the time, the broker that I worked for, which was at Remax, he had a bunch of rental properties in DC, and she called to rent one of these rental properties, and it's like, listen, man, can you go show this rental for me? And I was like, sure, I'll go show it. So, and he had no idea, of course, that she was a TV person. I mean, he just thought it was somebody showing a rental. So I went and I met her and I showed her the rental and we talked, and she was like, listen, you're kind of cool. I like you. And there's a small spot on each Get It Sold for a local agent. Would you have any interest? And I'm like, it's like free advertising. I mean, the whole shtick in this is how do you get more traction to let people know that you're out there and you're
Right.
doing this? And I'm like, yeah, of course. I'm interested. She was like, all right, so here's how it works. You're going to go and they're going to shoot some tape of you and they'll send it to the network. And if the network likes you, then they'll use you. And so I remember they told me to show up at this house in the DuPont area. And I didn't know anybody who was there. And they said, okay, listen, here's what we want you to do. They met me outside and they were like, we want you to walk through the house and, just give your opinions on the house. And I'm reasonably opinionated. And so I went through the house, and the house looked like shit. It was just not a cool house, and it was not in good shape, and it was not well taken care of. And so I went and kind of dropped an A-bomb on the property while I was in there. And I found out after the fact that this was the showrunner for Get It Sold. It was her property that she lived in.
What?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, wow. Sorry about that.
Did that come out in the show, like down the road?
It came out that is correct. It came out that my thing was the brutal honesty.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then they ended up asking me to do a Get It Sold, and then I got a call, and I'm sure that this has happened to you, at least part of this. I get this call from this guy, and he's like, hey, Mike, just wanted to follow up, really familiar with your work, and didn't say anything about TV. So now I'm like, all right, this is a guy I met in an open house. Let me try to figure it out through conversation who it is. And this was, it was pre-CRMs and all that kind of stuff where you can sort of look. And I mean, this is where we all made lists and things like that. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to get who this guy is. So we're talking and we're going through it. And finally, I'm on the phone with the guy probably almost 10 minutes, and I can't figure out who it is. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to take the L. So listen, man, I'm really enjoying this conversation with you. Thank you for having me, but I don't remember you. And he's like, oh, we haven't met. And I'm like, how is it that you seem to know so much about me? And he said, well, I'm the president of HGTV, and I've been watching the work that you've been doing on Get It Sold, and I wanted to know if you wanted your own show. That's how I got on TV. And in perfect Mike Aubrey way, I said, amazing. How much are you going to pay me?
Yeah.
And that was the first thing that I asked. And then I went under contract with Scripps, and we did real estate intervention. We did Power Broker that we shot in the Bay Area. And there you go.
So, okay, so these shows, pardon me, I don't remember watching these shows. But you guys sent over a reel of some of these clips, and they're awesome because it's like the classic real estate TV stuff that we're all very used to now. It's like very dramatic, reality TV,
Sure.
right?
Which is certainly not real.
It's
Go ahead.
reality TV.
Yeah.
So basically everything that anyone would see on these shows was all scripted, and it's a television show.
Correct. I mean, it's not scripted. Would be probably a little far to the right to say that they actually script it out and tell people what to say. But I think that there's some guidance there. There's some ideas. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I mean, they're going to say, what do you think of this room? And, oh, I love it. Or, oh, I don't love it. And it's got all these problems. And so the showrunner and whoever's directing, you're going to give them an idea of what's coming up, but it is not so much where it's word for word scripted.
Mm-hmm. How many years did you work on those shows?
I mean, I guess I was about 7 years.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Now, were you also conducting your real estate business back here in this area at the same time?
I was. So that's when we did real estate intervention, which we did here in the D.C. area. We shot at some in Philly, a little bit in Dallas. I was okay with it. I was able to kind of juggle between my work and television work. When they gave me Power Broker, which again we shot in the Bay Area in San Francisco, I flew almost 300,000 miles in 8 months. I was doing two red eyes a week.
Wow.
Because I had a job, and I mean, not that
Right.
wasn't a real job because it was a paying job, but so was this, and this was what I had spent years trying to develop. You know what I mean, and work toward.
Were you a
And-
solo practitioner at that time, or did you have a team underneath you to help facilitate some of your deals?
By the time I was doing Power Broker in the Bay Area, I had one person that was working for me, and then obviously my wife. Well, she wasn't my wife then. She was my assistant then, and she does not sell, and does mostly ops work. So I had a little bit of support, but not a ton, and certainly, I don't know, not enough to be able to do that kind of schedule. Because mostly when somebody shoots a show like that, if you're like, oh, okay, we're going to shoot Power Broker in the Bay Area, it's just like when Sabrina did get it sold in D.C. You moved there. And you live there while you're shooting that show. I never moved to the Bay Area. I mean, I lived in a hotel in San Francisco.
Wow.
And went in and out. And it was just too much. It almost killed me. And I had to make a decision. Did I want to do real estate on TV, or did I want to do real estate in real life?
Yeah.
And I decided to go with real life.
Yeah.
What were your days like as far as like shooting? Are you 8 hours a day, 20 hours a day shooting?
I mean, not 20, but I mean, depending on where you were at in the production cycle, I mean, certainly 8 to 10.
Right.
And a lot of those days, specifically with Power Broker and being in the Bay Area, I would shoot 8 or 10 hours and then go out to SFO and sit at a bar for a few hours waiting for the red eye, and then fly back, get to Dulles, because that was at a time where there were no flights into Reagan. And get to Dulles, get up, go home, take a shower, and take appointments.
Was it lucrative in the sense of could you just do that and not do real estate and just be a TV personality?
Sure. I mean, absolutely. I think in terms of what the network pays you, I mean, it's good enough that you can live off of it. Now, I think that a lot of, where the real money is not the money that you get from the network, but rather how you dovetail that into sponsorships and, here's the Mike Aubrey paint color at Home Depot or
Sure.
however it is that you decide to do that.
The Mike Aubrey real estate course. Right. Yeah, of course.
Correct.
Did you go down that path at all?
Not really. I mean, not a ton. I had, I was doing a bunch of personal appearances, for like associations of realtors of certain states or counties. They would ask me to come to their conferences and speak, and they would pay me. But I didn't go sort of the route of really monetizing that side of it. I think that would have been the next step for me, would be to do that had I decided that I wanted to stay on that road, but I didn't want to.
So on the HGTV stuff, so you were on House Hunters, right?
About a million times.
A million times.
Yeah, right.
So
In
one
DC? Like in the DC area or like outside of everywhere?
DC area and outside.
Yes,
the area,
okay.
Right.
one of my favorite shows just because it's ludicrous to me. What is the process for the show? Because you have if you've been on the show that many times, then you definitely have the types of buyers who are like, yeah, I have a cat yoga business, and like the husband's like, and I'm unemployed, and our budget is $1.6 million. Right.
This is like a meme. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
We've all
yeah.
seen this meme. Yeah, I mean, here's what I will tell you about House Hunters, because I'm not sort of spilling the beans that haven't already been spilled.
Fair enough.
House Hunters is indeed contrived. it's done up front. It's totally contrived on how it is, and that news broke. I remember, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. So I'm not throwing HGTV under the bus that it is completely contrived. But yeah,
Some funny moments.
I mean, I think this. I think that the idea of HGTV and everything that now is owned by Discovery, that was owned by Scripps before Discovery bought Scripps, but the lifestyle networks, when you talk about HGTV and DIY and food and travel, the purpose of these things is A, to entertain, and B, to make you happy.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the point. And so, to the end that reality TV maybe isn't as real as we would all like to think that it is, reality doesn't always make you happy, if that makes sense.
Indeed, it does.
I didn't know that about HGTV. I don't watch. I know the show, but I never followed it. But just thinking now, like the cat yoga is a little bit of a stretch. But I did not know that it was.
I've seen some pretty funny stuff on
cat
there.
yoga, and I'm unemployed, and I've got a 1.6 million budget. But I thought that it was somewhat scripted, but they were real buyers buying one of these 3 houses they looked at.
Well, no, I mean, to that end, they are. A lot of times they are, but I'll give you an example. Many of these shows, and let's not pick on House Hunters, let's just talk in general. Many of these shows, the person has already bought, and they'll go back and try to sort of infill where the answer is already there.
Right.
If that makes sense.
So obviously all of this time you spent on television, you're become like very recognizable in the media world. When did you start getting calls from like Today's Show, Fox Business to become like a resource for them when they're talking about real estate market? How did that come about?
Today's Show was a lot while I was still on the air.
Mm-hmm.
Hoda went to Virginia Tech. Hokey high, so I ended up doing a bunch of stuff, on her hour, and I didn't do what I would consider to be hard sector analysis on the Today Show. So when I was actually airing on HGTV, I did a ton of Today Show hits. I mean, I don't know, 30 plus.
Sort of supplemental to, it's a promotional.
Correct.
Almost.
I mean, not, like I would do some analysis, but it was really more sort of gamey and you know what I mean, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm,
and there was kind of some fun to it. But I have a little bit of an edge on me, and so I think that edge caught the attention of CNBC and Fox Business,
mm-hmm.
and some more focused financial sector analysis on what it is that we do.
Also, the voice cuts right through the audio mix, so it's like if it's on, even if it's on in the background, it's like, oh, I know that voice,
Yeah.
like authoritative.
So and then once you start doing that, I mean, television is just like anything else. I mean, it's like sort of who you know, and people have who they like. I mean, like I do Cavuto show a lot
mm-hmm.
because we have a good on-air presence together, and so that's why he keeps calling me back.
Yeah.
And so I mean, if there's something that happens, that's timely, that I mean, obviously real estate data, and when the real estate data drops every month, I'll do a lot of analysis on that, or where mortgage analysis, or things
mm-hmm.
of that nature.
And going back a little bit to your like HGTV early days into the current, are you able to leverage your time on TV, whether it's marketing or whatnot? And it's like, I saw you on House Hunters, and I want you to help me find my house here in Montgomery County.
Yeah, I mean, I have plenty of people who I mean, specifically when I was on HGTV, I had a lot of people who were surprised that they picked up the phone and called me and I answered. You know what I mean? And not that they were not getting somebody else who answered. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that when I was building my business, I was able to leverage that to make my business better at that time because I was on TV. Now I think I'm sort of older and I've been in the business a long time, and it's not so much, the dramatic HGTV stuff. But I mean, I think my client base sees me on CNBC and sees me on Fox Business because they watch it a lot, because
mm-hmm.
they're old people who are, obsessed with finance the same way that I am. And so do I think that that's helpful? I think it's super helpful. And I think that I've been able to leverage it to that end. Not so much monetize it, like I don't know if I'm going to get a paint color from it, but yeah, I mean, I think people want to work with me because of it.
So I was watching some of the clips from Fox Business, and like you come across, obviously, you're giving a lot of data. You're talking about, I think you were talking about home building stocks in one of them. You were talking about mortgage rates, of course, and another one's a hot topic right now. Do you do all this research yourself when you're preparing for the spot, or how has that worked out?
I do. I mean, the way that most of these shows will work is that, again, it's something timely that's in the news cycle. And the way that that would usually happen is, there's an article from Market Watch or in the Wall Street Journal or something like that. And the way that bookers work is they'll pitch this to whoever show it is, on the Financial News Network, and it'll get picked up. And yeah, I mean, interestingly, and I don't know, maybe I'm getting ready to throw myself under the bus and tell you how much of a dork I am, but no, I do all of the analysis myself, all the research myself. And a lot of it is not hard. I mean, because I'm so obsessed with it anyway. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, they're not usually.
You're already thinking about it. This is what you do.
Correct.
Yeah.
And where are you pulling this data from? What sources are you using?
I mean, everywhere. I mean, obviously.
You have a go-to source? Like, this is like you're going, like, we always say, like, whatever the site is.
Right.
But like,
We're
going
looking for
here.
Inman maybe, or
I mean, I don't know. I don't want to come on your podcast and throw Elon Musk under the bus, but, I really loved Twitter before it became X.
Mm-hmm.
And if you curated what you were looking at on Twitter and, who you were reading,
mm-hmm.
some of the smartest people on the planet really used that platform, from economists to, investors to hedge fund people. And sadly, the algorithm, I think, changed.
Yeah, it's really changed a lot.
In a way that I don't love. And so Twitter was a great resource for me because that was what I was reading. I mean, I wasn't doing, I don't know, the page 6 stuff. I don't know what Britney Spears is doing, but I was reading, a lot from the, Fed presidents, as an example.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I was never really a big Twitter reader or follower, but a lot of the there's some media figures that I really enjoy, and they're saying the same kind of thing. Like they were getting most of their news from Twitter. They were posting on Twitter and adding to that, and now they're really not. They're not even. Some of them were like banned recently, and they're not even on there.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you what. I got mad at Musk too. Yeah, I was verified on Twitter. And I didn't pay to get verified. I mean, this was from being on television. And I mean, I was verified since like 2005 or something like that. And they took my blue check mark away. And I was like, I'm not buying that check mark. I'm done with you, man. No way.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing.
So I am not verified on Twitter. Well, X now, but am on Instagram and Facebook.
Nor do you drive a Tesla, right?
I do not drive a Tesla.
Right. Okay. Making sure.
I saw the car they pulled up, and it's definitely like it was. I was like, I know that's got to be Mike in that car.
That's my wife's car. That's not my car.
Okay, well, realtors like drive these cars. I mean, it's like a Rob car. Okay,
okay.
So put it that way.
Some fancy
I
car.
have an SL55 AMG.
There we go. There we go.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Opposite of Tesla for sure.
Correct.
Yes.
Gets about 8 miles to the gallon.
Yes.
Yeah. So all right, let's just switch gears. Let's talk about your business now. So you live in DC now.
Yep.
Tell us
Which
about
neighborhood in DC?
In Georgetown, in the East Village.
It was like 2 blocks from me.
I'm on Cambridge. Yeah.
Cambridge is great.
Yeah.
So tell us about your business now. Do you have the Mike Aubrey team? Like how do you set up your business? How do you set up your day? Tell us about that.
So funny enough, my whole business that I built in the suburbs. And I don't know if you guys know where the Kentlands is in Montgomery County.
Gaithersburg,
but yeah, right. I was the guy in the Kentlands and Lakelands. And I mean, I worked really hard to be the guy there.
You're still the guy there, right?
Well, I still am kind of the guy, but I live in DC now. And now I'm trying to be the guy in DC too.
Mm-hmm.
And we were there. And so basically, all right. And I got to a point in my career where I began to get a little bit bored of the suburbs. And there is not a lot of different architecture in the burbs. You can kind of fold these buildings onto each other and because they're kind of the same. And, I had been talking with my wife about moving to DC, and we had this great plan of coming to DC because I was licensed here and I was doing some business here and I enjoyed it. And my dad passed away, and the last thing that he asked me was, he was like, you got to take care of your mom. And so they were in Florida because they had retired there, and so I moved my mom up from Florida to live with us, and our plan prior to him passing away was we were going to move to DC. We didn't have a child, and we didn't have my mom living with us, and so we were going to make that move and come down here. And I wasn't going to move my mom to DC because to put my mom in a building with an elevator in DC would have been pretty expensive, and I had an elevator in my house in Crown in Gaithersburg. So she came to live with us, and we got pregnant, and we had my daughter, and she stayed for a while, and then she was like, okay, no, I'm going back to Florida. I miss my friends, and I miss the good weather, and you could bring my granddaughter to see
screaming
me there.
babies here, I'm good.
And peace, I'm out. And so she went back to Florida. And as soon as she went back to Florida, we put the house on the market, and we sold, and we moved to DC with my daughter, who's now almost 3.5. And so we did it kind of the opposite direction that most people do it. Most people, live in the city and then move out to the burbs when they do the kid thing. And I listen to you guys all the time, and you guys have all these pearls of wisdom of parenting. So I was excited
now we're known as we do the parenting thing now. So we're getting known. I'm telling you.
No, she loves it here, and she's like a little city girl, and her preschool is like 4 blocks from our house on Dumbarton, and she walks every day, and it's cool.
It's a sweet lifestyle in Georgetown. I mean, my stepdaughter's over at Holy Trinity. Our other stepdaughter's like up at Hardy, and I mean, it's just everything's like in the village. We love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
So now I'm in Gaithersburg, and I'm bored, and your career, I think, is very much like your relationship that you have, and sometimes when you're in a relationship for a long time, you need to charge it back up. And so the French maid outfit of my career was DC. DC excited me about real estate again. I was at a position where 75% of my business was in Maryland and 25% was in DC, where today, like 80% of my business is in DC and 20% is in Maryland or Virginia. And that was, just got me, I got excited about it again. And I think that I was mostly, back to your question of, what am I doing? I think I was mostly listings. I worked with very few buyers, and I flipped that on its head as well. I'm probably 75% buyers, 25% listings. Now, I'm out showing houses. I mean, it's the French maid outfit, man. I'm excited. I want to be out there. I'm showing houses again, and I like it, and it's fun, and it has reinvigorated me to be excited about real estate again, and really has kind of pumped some energy into my being in love with my career.
How does that work as far as, it's almost like starting over in a sense, right? Because you're coming from Gaithersburg to Georgetown. Where are your buyers coming from in DC?
So, I mean, interestingly, a lot of the people who I have buying in DC also moved from Maryland. So they were former clients of mine. The number of people, and this just goes to show that not everyone is retiring in place to Scottsdale or West Palm anymore. People are often retiring in place where they lived because their kids are here and their grandkids are here. And so a lot of Piata Terra sales, for people who are coming out of the big house. And I was getting a lot from that. I also have leveraged Zillow. And let me be clear about Zillow and where I'm at with it. I use Zillow as a means to an end. For me, once I get that customer, I mean, we build relationships with people. I don't want to sell you one house. I want to sell you every house. And I want to sell everyone that I sell you, to somebody else. And so Zillow has been a vehicle for us to sort of jumpstart and create more opportunity in DC. And we've been doing it that way. It also allows me to feed my team. That's the other thing is I could survive today without doing anything on Zillow and continue to make pretty good money. But it does give me some opportunities to make it rain for, I have a team of 4 agents. And then my wife is our ops manager full time. I did what every management book tells you not to do, which is I married my assistant.
Yeah.
But I think that it's been amazing and has worked for us. You know what I mean? She gets it, and this can be a demanding career, and it can, I think that I've seen this career crush people's marriages and relationships and things like that because both people don't actually get it. So in our case, I guess it's lucky that she's pretty cool and we like each other because we're around each other like 24/7.
Real quick on the Zillow leads.
Yep.
Just on a high level, not to go into a rabbit hole with it, but can you share like the monthly cost, the zip codes that you're associated, if they're still doing the zip codes, and then roughly how many leads you're getting a month from Zillow?
Northwest DC in the tens of thousands.
A month.
A month.
Okay.
And listen, here's the reality. I mean, if I wasn't making money off of it, I wouldn't do it.
Right.
I mean, let's be clear. Because I think that becomes the question. I mean, and it has to be profitable, and it is. 07, 16, 01, and we kind of 09, which is great because of the density. I don't do a ton in 09. I give most of those leads to my staff. Same is true with 01. I think that the team does most of those leads as well. I do a lot of 07.
Do you have someone behind the scenes managing those leads? Because I know we've had a lot of guests on it. Some love Zillow, some don't care for Zillow, but the response time is crucial. So do you have someone manning the phones on that, or the agents man the phone round robin?
Right. The agents man the phone round robin. Everyone has an assigned day, and then everybody has a backup on that assigned day. We aren't using ASAs. I think that there are some teams that really build their business off of Zillow.
Right.
And let me be clear. I don't know that I'm one of those teams.
Right.
I think that, again, it's a means to an end for us right now. But the idea is that we get to not do this forever. And that, we're in a position that if for some reason Zillow's empire folded, we're not going to fold.
Right.
And so, no, I think there are a lot of teams, and I'm not faulting it, that they have that business model, but it's not my business model where it's ASAs and, sort of turn and burn. Also, I think that most of those teams that are really all in on Zillow like that, I think they're big. I mean, I think they're, 20 to 40, 50 person teams.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're 5. And so it's not really like that. I don't want to put my eggs all in one basket either.
Right. That's smart.
You're an opinionated guy. You were talking about that. And just for listening purposes, for our listeners' purposes, there's a little bit of a lead time between when we were taping this and when it airs. But why don't get into that? Like, so what's topical right now? Like mortgage interest rates. The market we've seen definitely some slowing down in different micro pieces of our market here in DC. What do you think about the market right now and how things are heading, being the research guy that you are?
Well, I think you hit it on the nose. I think it's nuanced.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, there have been periods of time in the industry where I think you could sort of overlay what was going on. You could do it from a macro sense. I think, whether you meant countrywide or statewide or even, if we wanted to get a bit smaller and say the DMV, I think it's become far more nuanced than that. It's weird. It's difficult to track and trend right now. I mean, some high-level things. There is greater demand than there is supply, and that is 100% the case right now. I think that if you took any other sector, whether it was cars or packs of gum or whatever it is that you're selling, and you take the cost of money to buy within that sector and you raise it, 300 or 400% over a short period of time, that generally is a sector killer. Much to Chairman Powell's chagrin, I think that's exactly what he was trying to do to real estate and I'm kidding. I mean, he wasn't trying to kill it, but I think that he was trying to cool the economy and get rid of some of the froth and get rid of some of the inflation that they were seeing. And it has not happened, which, again, speaks to the supply-demand imbalance that is out there. Do I think that this other shoe that is going to drop, which is that we're going to see, some sort of ecosystem ending bomb in real estate. I don't think that's going to happen. I think people still need houses regardless. And I'm not just trying to promote our book, which happens a lot, that we're out kind of trying to promote our book to people and tell people that the market's not bad. Because, I mean, listen, a lot of the people who are listening here are people like us. I mean, it's our tribe. Yeah. It's real estate agents that are listening to this. So, if I thought that it was bad, I would say that it was bad. I think that, we couldn't keep interest rates where they were, I mean, without getting really in the weeds and starting to talk about mortgage-backed securities and where the coupon is trading at, that was not natural. And there are all these people who are so upset about where rates are right now. I'm not all that upset about it. I mean, that was because the Fed was buying $40 billion a month in mortgage-backed securities. And, that was because of a global pandemic and a host of other things within the political ecosystem that kind of got us there. And now they're buying $0 a month in mortgage-backed securities. So to that end, Goldman Sachs is not going to buy mortgage paper that's paying 2.5%. It's not good for their shareholders. And, I think that 7 to 9% is where we're going to live. I think this narrative that, we're going to get back down to 4 or 5%, I think it's pretty unlikely. I don't see rates going to that. And I think that, using that narrative with our customers to say you can do it, you're going to be able to refi out of it, that's not where I'm at with this market. Buy something that you can afford and look at what the monthly payment is. If it's at 7% or 8% interest, can you afford the monthly payment, and are you still able to go out and get a steak or tofu or whatever it is that you eat, and can do so without stressing yourself financially? Now, anecdotally speaking, and we'll see if you guys agree with me, we're seeing more inventory come into the marketplace. I'm seeing more inventory come into the marketplace. And, part of the problem with real estate data analytics is that it's months behind, or at least 30 days behind, depending on what metric you're looking at. And so I feel like sort of a lot of foxhole analysis, which is what we're doing here together right now, is pretty meaningful, because I don't want to wait for Robert Schiller to tell me what's going on, in our marketplace, and I want to look at it. So I think that we're seeing more inventory come into the marketplace. Where do I think that inventory is coming from? Boomers. I think that boomers own their houses outright. I think that, or have very, very little mortgage on it. I think that, back to this idea, are they moving to West Palm? Are they staying here and having a pied a terre and having some presence to be around their kids and their grandkids? I mean, 40% of those deals are being done in cash right now.
It's incredible, yeah.
Those people don't care if mortgage interest rates are at 8%.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't care at all. And so our market is going to continue. I think the bomb on our market is not going to be mortgage rates, and it's not going to be about inventory. If you want to talk about, an ecosystem change that is going to be dramatic, it's the number of people that we're going to lose. I think we're losing 50% of the industry over the next 18 months.
Agents are gone.
And I think the whole industry. I mean, it's not just agents. I think 50% of agents. I think we're going to lose 50% of title companies, 50% of mortgage originators. I think that this is the great culling of the herd that is going to happen over the next year and a half.
It's already happened. We know that I know plenty of mortgage teams who have cut staff. That started a while ago.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not doing enough deals.
Sure.
Period. They can't pay anyone. So.
Well, it's interesting because I got into the business right after you did, but it was in the height of the market. I think 2005, market's going crazy, and then a couple years later, you have the financial crash, and everybody's leaving the industry: home inspectors, agents, lenders, title attorneys, and those that survived have thrived since. Very similar people that came in during the pandemic bubble. It's great. Throw mud on a wall and you're going to make some money with it. But now that the market has shifted, you're going to see the same exit, as you just mentioned.
Listen, 2010 was the first time that I made 7 figures GCI. And 2010 was a wasteland in real estate. I mean, there was, and this goes to exactly what you're saying, Brent, which is, everybody who worked at Best Buy that got a real estate license, speaking of my problem with the low barrier of entry in real estate, which is a whole nother topic, but they went back to Best Buy. And so people wanted a name. They wanted an established person who had been working. And so, the recession built me in the same way that every Fortune 500 company became a Fortune 500 company during the last recession. Did you know that?
Interesting.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and the same is true for us, and we can apply, superimpose that same theory onto us. When things start to get worse is when, truly, I hate to, sound like some sort of motivation Instagram site, but cream rises to the top.
Well, this is interesting you say that, because for my company, and I still feel like I was so young when all of that was happening. I was doing really well too in 2005 and then 2006, and without any idea of what's going on in the background. Okay,
right.
Just like I'm just a young guy. I'm like, this is great, partying, selling condos, whatever. And so after the crash, our company, we contracted for a little bit. We closed one office, and we were all in the Georgetown office, where I still am. I've been in that same office since 2008. I don't know if you know that.
You closed my office, 1410Q.
The 1410Q.
I still remember that.
I walk by your office like every day. That is on my walk that I take with my daughter.
We have good signage right there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I would say that within a few months, they were talking about opening a new office in McLean, and I was like, what are they doing? That's really when they started ramping up.
Sure.
They went right into the toughest part and started expanding. And right now, obviously, our company is doing fantastic. It's been built over there.
You guys just opened a place out on the shore too, right?
Yeah.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Eastern,
St. Michael's. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They're doing great.
Scared money doesn't make money.
Right. Yeah. No. I look. We've had a fantastic year. Thankfully, even in a tough year, our team's been doing really well. Obviously, we had that fantastic sale with the auction recently. That definitely doesn't hurt our numbers. But I will say that going into this winter time, it's usually a slower time of year anyway. I'm actually like increasing our marketing spend on things.
Sure.
We've done mailing campaigns to certain farms and locations for decades, and I'm just like, we're gonna double it.
Sure.
Because what are we scared of? Like, other people are gonna disappear. Those mailers won't be in their mailbox, and I don't know. It's just very simple to me.
100%. Although, listen, I got to be honest. Having the sort of, I don't know, I'm trying to think of the word I want to use. Icon, pillar. Having a guy like Jonathan Taylor, who is a monster in our industry, has got to be helpful. You know what I mean? That guy, he's definitely more notorious than me.
Industry titan.
He is an industry titan, but you know what's so funny? Because I've literally known him since I'm a teenager, and he's like one of the nicest people on earth. And he's so chill, and chill is not even the right word, because chill is like too new of a word for him. He's old school. He's just like a nice person.
No, he's a super cool guy. I just showed the Kennedy property, the auction property, the other night, and he was there. And I always enjoy talking to Jonathan. His perspective on things, I think, is super helpful.
There's a lot to learn from him. All right, so as of the taping of this, so recently a jury found NAR and brokerages guilty in a landmark commission suit. This suit was in Missouri?
It was.
Okay.
Correct. And it's Sitzer Burnett.
Sitzer Burnett is the name of the case. And so the essence of this is that you were being very blunt earlier, talking about it before we started taping, was these people who are accusing realtors essentially for a long time of not doing much. We don't do much to make as much money as we do, and that there's we conspire to keep our commissions at a certain level or high, and that we also, quote unquote, I think it's part of it, that we force sellers to pay the commission, and then which we then share with the buyer, whatever. And so now these suits are happening. Some of the larger corporations, corporate brokers are having to shell out some money. It doesn't look like that much money in the grand scheme of things, but it's not. This is just like the tip of the iceberg, right?
It's about $1.5 billion right now is what they're talking about, but there's a great amount of latitude that the judge has with this, and that could end up being over $5 billion, depending on how it is that he wants to rule based on this verdict, and this was a jury verdict that they got. I mean, my big concern over this, it's going to be appealed, and will end up, in the appellate court, and who knows, maybe they even take it as far as the Supreme Court. The real issue for us as an industry is the optics that are coming from this. I'm a big turn on the morning shows guy, and this morning, as an industry, this is great clickbait. And we're getting creamed on Squawk Box on CNBC and, the morning show on Fox Business. And it is the optics of what is being put out there is exactly what you're saying, which is that we're vilified and we're, this awful industry that has been stealing money from people.
We're leeches.
And of course, we all know that that's not the case. And I've been preaching to my team for more than a year, you have to be more than a door opener. This has to be about service. Where this is going, what we are doing as we move into the next cycle of real estate and real estate agents. It used to be, I'm sure you guys remember this. Listings were in this 3-ring binder, and if you were working desk duty, you had to pull the stuff out of the binder and put the new stuff in. And how does that sort of connect to what we're talking about? Well, we had the information then. We had the information, and you paid for us to share the information.
Yeah, we had total control of the information.
Correct. We do not have the information anymore. That it is available everywhere, and on Zillow and Trulia and Realtor.com and individual brokerage websites. So now it has to be about the service that we are offering. And, up until the 90s, there was only agency on the listing side. And there were no buyer's agents. Nobody even knew what a buyer's agent was. And what I didn't hear anybody on the morning talk shows talking about this morning was that fact, and the fact that it was changed and buyer's agency was put in there to make sure that buyers had the opportunity to be adequately represented, that somebody needed to be on their side.
Yeah.
And nobody was on their side prior to that. And that's how buyer's agency came around. So I think as an industry, we need to go about the process of educating people on what's going on. I'm more worried about the optics than I am the verdict, and how we are going to educate people who we work with to realize that the service that we provide, if we were not providing it, that they would buy things that they shouldn't be buying. They would pay more than they should be paying. They wouldn't find houses that they otherwise might find without using us.
Right.
And I think that we have to sort of circle the wagons as an industry to do that. And in order to do that, I think that we have to have good leadership from our trade group, specifically, NAR.
Yeah.
And they may be busy right now.
Yeah, they're having some trouble as well.
Right.
Yeah, all I can say to that is even with all of the information out there, Zillow, Redfin, everything's available online. We all know what we're looking for. We obviously do this all the time. So if I went to any other state, even that's not even true. Even if I went to like the Outer Banks, I would still call a realtor.
Of course.
Right? I can sure I can look on Zillow and see like what's available and start making appointments. But like the whole point of what we do is like we make it easy or easier.
Sure.
And we provide service.
Indeed. And that
expertise
has to be the thing. That's where we are now. We have to collectively say, this is the service that we provide, and we got to let people know that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's smart. And I always tell people the service, and I guess underneath that same umbrella is you're paying us to negotiate the best deal on your behalf, whatever that terms, price,
Sure.
what have you. But we're negotiating the best deal for you possible, whether you're the buyer or the seller.
Indeed.
It's the comfort of experience too.
Right.
Like having someone who does this every day, like can give you the answers you need when you need them. It's a human thing.
When you start talking about the amount of collective experience, even sitting at this table between the three of us, what we have seen and not seen based on the number of cases that we've done over this lifelong career that we have, you're not going to replace that with Google.
No.
You can ask all the questions you want in Google, and it's not going to work. I know.
Indeed.
It doesn't work. All right, Mike. Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming down here and meeting with us. Really enjoyed it. Brent's going to hit you with some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
5 easy questions. What book do you recommend or are you currently reading?
I would recommend The Art of War
Art of War.
by Sun Tzu. Have you guys read it?
I have not. Art of War.
I have it on Audible. I've listened to it.
It's amazing.
Yes.
And at the time of this taping, we had Chandler Bing pass away. You're a big TV person. What's your all-time favorite TV show, whether it's current or something in the past?
TV show or movies
Or a
as
movie,
well?
yeah.
Wow. You know what? I mean, I think I would say this. I think The Godfather.
The
Godfather is like,
Classic.
It's a classic, and there's so much that you learn about business from it.
Okay.
I have to go. It's time for a rewatch. I think for that.
The
I think
Godfather?
it's been at least 10 years. I think it's good timing.
So you got a three-year-old, correct?
Yes.
In Georgetown. What's your go-to restaurant in Georgetown with the 3-year-old?
Oh, wow.
Or in D.C. It could be
Yeah.
Northwest. That would be Georgetown.
Let's see. Go-to restaurant. All right, now I got to tell you this. The percentage of money that I make per month that I spend with Uber Eats, I would be embarrassed to tell you what it is because we don't cook. And one of the cool things about being in Georgetown is that I can take my daughter to Philomena without taking her to Philomena.
Right.
And so I would say to you that our favorite place to eat with her is in our dining room because, up until 2.5, she was pretty quiet. At 2.5, she
Cranked
broke
it
her
up.
volume switch. So yeah, we probably mostly order at home.
Okay.
Date night, bourbon steak for sure.
Okay.
Bourbon steak.
There you go.
Max, what about you? So you have a little bit older kids. What's your go-to restaurant in Georgetown with the kids?
Well, we've always been really big fans of Il Canale.
It's great.
I mean, like, love the owner there, and the staff there knows us. I mean, that's like the kind of place where I go in. It's like, hello, sir, and everyone's so nice to us. So I have to always say Il Canale is our favorite.
Good deal.
Yeah.
You mentioned you played golf early on. Do you have a favorite golf course?
Ever?
Ever.
I mean, listen, I got to give a shout out to Virginia Tech. The River Course in Pulaski, Virginia Tech was redone by Pete Dye. It's one of the best golf courses in college golf. It's where our golf team plays, and it's probably my favorite.
Did you play golf in college?
I didn't. I did, but not as a student
Not on the
athlete.
team.
Right.
Right. So you're always on the news. Do you have a favorite news show that you like or watch? That's your go-to news show? Last question there.
I think he watches all of it.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean,
You
I
watch
can't,
all of it. Do you have this is the one I really like and trust the most?
I can't get enough. But I would say that Squawk on the Street, Carl Quintanilla, is a pretty fair shake guy in terms of staying in his lane and representing. I think the problem with news is that it's become very pundit related, and so what I'm looking for is something that's not to the right or the left, but rather somebody actually reporting the news. Carl's that guy.
Yeah.
Mike Aubrey, thanks so much for coming down. Really appreciate having you. Thank you.
Thanks for having
Thanks,
me.
Mike.
Thanks for listening to Keyed In with your hosts, Max and Brent, unlocking the minds of the industry's top real estate professionals. For more information on selling your home, find us online at keyedinpodcast.com. Remember to subscribe to Keyed In on Apple Podcasts or wherever you like to listen to podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Keyed In Podcast, at Rabin Max, and at Brent E. Jackson. And follow Max on TikTok at MaxwellRabin_properties.